Welcome, guys, to episode 15 of the Game Dev Discussion Podcast. Today we have Kyle Horwood, ex-materials artist at Ubisoft Annecy and Supermassive Games, co-founder of Colony Games, bro. How we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, G.
Yeah, man, I'm decent. I'm best I've found in a long time.
That's good.
So,
I'm slightly tired.
I was going to say, bro, that's what happens here when you freelance like 50 projects at once and decide to open a studio at the same time. Like, I imagine busy and tiredness come hand in hand.
Yeah, I gotta keep myself busy though.
Well, as everyone says, whenever you say you're busy, it's better to be busy than bored.
Yeah, that is very true.
So we're going to skip off a lot of the sort of the history lesson on you, because I know you were recently on Ross's podcast. So he's done a great job in it, giving you a bit of backstory to you. So I want to dive straight into some questions I have. So you're a textures artist, you're a materials artist. How did that come about? So was it a calculated move in terms of you sort of looked at what was out there and went, I'm good at this and people like this? Or was it you just enjoy materials and that's what decided to get you into it?
I'd say, hopefully I'm not talking because it's cut out for a second. But yeah, it's like I know people. Like I saw some guys from Naughty Dog. I think his name was Genova or something like that. Genesis, that's it, Genesis. And he was doing these really nice ZBrush sculpts, and I was like, wow, I want to work there and do materials. And I realized it was a job, so I tried to do some more research in it. And I found Josh Lynch, who was getting into it, as well as Rogelio, and I started speaking with them, getting a bit of mentoring from them. And then I was like, yeah, I'll try this as a job. And go on from there. Because I was doing other stuff. Mostly, I was looking into game design and things like that, but I didn't see that as a job, or it just seemed like everyone wanted to do that. So I was like, I'll do materials. But now it's kind of switched a little bit. It seems like a lot of people want to do materials now as well.
I think I know. Speaking from my experience, materials for me is there's short-term projects that you see instant reward. So I was giving you a heads up, dude. I'm hearing feedback of me through your headset. I don't know whether it's worth we just go push to talk for this.
I'll turn you down a little bit.
Sweet. Yeah. My experience is like, for materials art for me, like I talked to Ben about this. Was they're short-term projects you see instant reward from. Like, you only work on a material for like a week and a half, and you've got your final product, whereas like environments is much more. So I think that's why they're popular recently. Just talk a bit more about like the design. What part of design was it you originally sort of quite interested in? Kyle?
Are you alright?
Yeah, there we go. You there? So what part of design was it you were originally interested in?
Hang on. Miriam's saying there's no sound. But I can hear us, so if I play it.
It's cool. I'm sure it should work out the technical stuff.
So yeah, I was messing around with UDK a lot, and I really like the Kismet stuff, the Matinee, because I liked doing cinematics, because I used to do stuff like that. It was kind of where I wanted to go, and then my stepmom was like, "You need to be more realistic." So I ended up doing engineering course, and I didn't like that, so I went back into media film stuff, and then it kind of led to games in a way. And so I was like messing around with Kismet. I was gonna try and learn Unreal Script, and I'm so glad I never did. And then back in my master's and my degree, I was Unreal Engine 4 when that came out. I started picking up blueprints straight away and learning how to do that. And right now I'm trying to learn a bit of C++ just to help with the games because I don't want everything to be blueprints because memory wise it can be a bit demanding.
Yeah. What about environment art in general? You know, like
Design stuff I was doing, making games and what.
so what about environments? You know, did that ever sort of come on your radar as something you'd really want to do, or you really into the materials and design side of stuff?
See, I remember doing this environment back in university, and my lecturer was like, if you keep at this, you'll be a good environment artist. But it was just never something that really interested me because I'm more of a storyteller. And I know you can tell stories in the environments, it's really key and stuff. But for me, I like creating stuff that's going to come together as a product that tells a story. So, like, I did some demos of games where it's pretty much a walking simulator. So, you have like voice acting and stuff, and I really enjoy that type of stuff. And I'll do the environments for sure if it's for that. But it's like it's a lot more different when you just focus on an environment just for portfolio. I find because I started doing a couple of environments just from putting on my portfolio, and they never get finished because I can't put that much into it. I probably like with my pirate scene, I was thinking of actually having it in the style of a game trailer, and you had voiceover of a captain talking, and it showed a bit of the environment. But obviously, that kind of puts a lot more time onto the actual project for just a portfolio piece. So yeah.
So that's how you view it. But do you think that was sort of the lack of enjoyment or the way you saw it was because you were looking at it as an portfolio piece rather than sort of, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but like art for the sake of art? Do you think that might be part of it, or do you think it wouldn't have ever grabbed you? You there?
Yeah, everything's just gone quiet for a moment. I thought we were
So
meditating for a moment.
So you said you weren't you're treating the environment art as like a portfolio piece.
Yeah.
Do you think that's played into why maybe you didn't enjoy it as much because you were looking at it through these lenses of a portfolio piece?
I think so, yeah. I think it's if I'm just looking at it as like, oh, people are just gonna see this as a picture, it kind of sucks the enjoyment out of it for me myself. Don't get me wrong, I think out of making environments, I really love sculpting stuff in like ZBrush. I could do that for hours. But actually like compositing the environments together and then really doing like small details and then big details and then yeah, that stuff I kind of know how to do it, but trying to get it to a finished project always was a difficult for me. It's one reason why I also went to materials because my materials always sucked really bad. So I was like, okay, I'll focus on my materials, and then I'll go back to environments.
Speaking of
Maybe one
material,
day,
speaking of materials, we got to just touch on one material, and you know which one I'm talking about: the crayons, the OG crayons.
good old
Man,
crayons.
I mean, I mean, I know that's how I come across you, and it's how I remembered you. Like when I was first getting into materials, and I had like an Excel document with like all the material artists in our art station, and yours was there, and I always remembered yours as he's the crayon guy, and I know that I imagine that's how a lot of people sort of knew your name was. He's the guy that did that sick crayon idea.
Yeah, it's funny that is like I was in Ubisoft and one person was like, "Oh, you're that Kyle, the 3D car, the one who did the crayons," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." But it's interesting because each material you do, there can be a certain point where you become the person of that material. Like I did the ornate tiles, and then people were like, "Oh, you're the one who did the ornate tiles," and then you go on from that, and I did my stone wall texture. And everyone's like, "Oh, that was really good and impressive," and now I'm just known as the crayon guy.
I mean, to be fair, it is like it's interesting though because you almost get a reputation for yourself, like an image attached to your name. And I spoke about this briefly with James Ratosa about his pill material when he started at 343. He was saying, they knew him as the pill guy, like because he did that sick pill material. It is funny because you have like that. It's like you have that one original piece, like that one standout thing. It doesn't even have to be the most technically difficult piece. Like if you don't mind I'm saying, the crayons one, like if you know yourself as a materials artist, you break that down into the fundamentals. It's not impressive because it's technically difficult. It's impressive because it's really like original and creative, and
Yeah.
you've sort of gained a lot of credibility for yourself through that. And it's almost like it's such a hard thing to sort of capture, isn't it? Because it's like, say, how do you say to an artist, come up with a super original idea people remember you for? It's like, it's kind of impossible.
Yeah, it's tough. Like those that pencils wasn't to me original. They came from a series I did while I was doing my freelance and before I got into any studios. I was doing a series called Substance Lunchtime Doodles, where I just spent like an hour or two during my lunchtime making a substance and streamed it on Twitch, and people came. And those crayons were one of the ones because I was just scroll through Pinterest and select which were simple enough to do in those 2 hours and make it like get the color in and stuff, so from start to finish. And the crayons one was there at one point, and then I think I did that in the second part.
Dude,
Yes, just a lot of scrolling on Pinterest, pretty much, is how I find my
Pinterest is the
resource.
best. Pinterest is the best. I have like, fuck, I must have at least 20 boards, each with like themes and topics. It's great. I love it as a resource. Probably not the
Yeah.
most. It's not probably not the best one. It's not. I know it's not the best optimized website. Sometimes if you have a lot of pins on that board, loaded times can be painful.
Sure.
So moving on to like, so you've obviously moved out of AAA studios. You've founded your own company. I just wanted to talk a little bit about why that came about. I just wanted to talk around like what was the driving factor to sort of, I don't want to say you fell out of love with the AAA studios, but like what was the reason for you to go, right, I don't want to do this, I want to take this risk. You've gone freelance and you started your own studio. What were the sort of steps leading up to you making you make that decision?
There was quite a few. I think moving country was a big one for me at first because obviously you experience a different culture and stuff. It was quite hard to do, but I kind of realized that when I was doing materials in a AAA that my mind always drifted back to I was making my own games with friends and my partner, and yeah. So after that, I kind of moved back to the UK, and it was still dwelling on my mind, and I was getting a little burnt out from materials because a lot of the time, actually, in materials, like you're just kind of in the corner of the room and no one really talks to you. And it's like unless they really really need something from you, so
Yeah.
it didn't feel that social. I kind of had to go out my way to talk to people rather than the other way around. um so it kind of got lonely, I think, as well, which kind of burnt me out, because it didn't feel like I was contributing to a whole game. uh and I found that when I was doing freelance it actually felt different. Even though I wasn't in the studio, I felt more involved.
Yeah.
So I was like, I really enjoy doing the freelance and getting to choose what clients you want to work with, and you get in your touch different type of games as well, um, short term as well. And then that means when at least the games come out, I can actually play it and enjoy it rather than be like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen now.
Yeah. So you quite like the fact that, so I suppose at AAA you've got like 2-3 year work cycles. With freelance, you're touching a game for like a few months and you're off and you're on a new project and you're touching that game for like a completely different style and feel, and you're moving back
Yeah,
and forth between these things.
yeah, and I really enjoy that. And I know that when I was working at Supermassive, I had a few people come up to me and says, "Oh, we want to hire you for some materials." I was like, I can't do it because obviously working time in a game studio. And then I was just playing in my mind as like, I mean, I kind of missed doing the freelance and having my own space, do what I want to do. And it was still playing in my mind that I wanted to make my own video games. And because I've got tons of ideas. I've always have. I've always been coming up with stories and such. I was like, it wasn't it wasn't as risky to do this. I know I listen to a lot of GDC talks and stuff about people who quit their industry jobs and go indie with like no savings, or they take out all their what's like retirement money and stuff like that. And to me, I'm quite lucky in the fact that we have a home that we don't have to worry about paying rent for if we can't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's not a problem. So, and I was still getting work through freelance. So I was like, oh, I could easily do freelance and work on my own company. And then the months when I don't have any freelance, I can just focus solely on my company, and then it can just flip. So it wasn't as risky. It was a bit risky in like, okay, if I make a company, people might be like, oh no, he's got a games company himself, so we don't want him working for us
Mm-hmm.
in with the freelance.
You
And I
just
was kind of
sorry, go on.
there's the fear as well that if the company fails and I do want to go back to like working in AAA game companies and go back to the materials, that people would be like, no.
Yeah, you just got a really interesting point. I don't know what you think about this. It's just sprung to my head. It's more of a like discussion point. So you said you had people approach you while you were at Supermassive to do freelance work, and obviously you can't. You're with Supermassive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think the best way to word this. Do you think it's an issue? Freelance. Say you're an artist at a studio, just any generic studio, and in your side hustle, you're in your own time, you're freelancing. Do you see like any real negatives to the studio? Because like the only reason I can see that I'm like, right, no, I hire this artist and he has to work, or he or she has to work for me because I pay their wage.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I can see you do that is you pay for the top talent, and you almost want to you're paying the top talent, and therefore they're not helping your competitors.
Yeah.
That's the only tangible reason I can think of. And I'm not saying that's a good reason. That's just the only reason I can come up with to justify it.
See,
What do you think about it? Like you've been in that situation.
yeah. So I've always, because I've thought about this as well myself actually, and I'm always like, I can kind of see both sides of it, because there's a side of, if you own a studio and it's like you've hired that person to work for you, and then they go home working on other stuff, and then maybe they come in the next day and they're too tired to work on what you've tasked them to do, then I can kind of see why that becomes a problem. But it also, to me, feels wrong that some companies kind of dictate what you do in your free time,
Yeah.
because it's like, I understand that I work for you and I need to be best shape, and those times are hard for recovering so I can come back to work the next day. But to me, it just feels like you're kind of a cog in a machine where it's just like work, sleep, work, sleep.
See,
And
when you
then,
frame it like that, it is. When you say I've got to go home and recover,
yeah,
like, and the thing is, it's like from my rugby days, that's what it was treated as. Is like, right, when you go home, you need to go home and rest. You need to not be. You can't be out doing other shit. 'Cause you need to rest because you need to be in tip top shape.
yeah,
But someone
for
coming in
sure.
fatigued the next day, that's down to managing the person. Like if the person's going to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning and they're getting up at 6 and they're fatigued at work, like you got to say to that person, look, don't take the piss. We know what you're doing, and we don't mind it, but don't take the piss. I don't think you put a flat out rule to say no freelancers.
There are some companies that flat out will say, no, you're not allowed to do anything else to competitors. There are fair few companies as well that will let you do other stuff. I heard Ubisoft can be quite lenient on that at sometimes. It depends on certain rules with the actual company itself, not Ubisoft as a whole, but the actual studio you're located in.
Right.
And but yeah, like I said, I see two sides of the coin. I can see why you kind of fatigued and you go home. I don't understand how some of these artists can like work like long shifts and work their ass off and then go home and do more, because it's a brilliant way to get burnt out.
I think it's everything's with moderation, and it's also person to person basis. Like, you know, I'll use me as a case example. I'm happy to do 7.5 hours and then go home and do another 5-6 hours work. But then it's a weird thing you get into. So, like, say for example, you're like, right, no. So say we're gonna treat it like you're a cog in a machine, just for argument's sake, and you're gonna go home, you're gonna rest up. That's what your job is. You're gonna go and rest up. You're not allowed to freelance. Fine. Does that mean mentoring other people? Does that mean personal development and training? This is where I get lost, because I'm like, if I go home and I do a load of PD and training so I'm better at my job, they would have an issue with that. You know what I mean? Like, if I come in tired the next day, it goes, why are you tired? And I went, oh, well, I was researching this technique and I wanted to get it so I can implement it better here in the office. They'd be like, oh, wow, well done. Good job. Thank you. But if I go home and I'm like, why are you tired? I'm like, you know, I was up late last night working a bit. You know, it's like, oh, well, no, it's bad. No, you know, slap on the wrist. And, that's only if you're tired, you know. But, you know, there's a grey line in there, because it's like, why is freelance? What's the difference between freelance and mentoring? And then what's the difference between mentoring and, say, what I'm doing with podcasting?
Yeah,
you know?
I guess with freelance, because you're being paid and you got another deadline, so you're kind of pushing yourself a bit more, where personal work, you can kind of just be like, I'll just not do this. I'll give it
even
a couple
content creators, you know, if you're like, say I was JRO back in the day when he was first creating kits, is that considered freelance? And then like tutorials, is that considered freelance? Because you'll make money off that. Content creators make money off that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? It's just great. It's a very weird subject, and I wish it wasn't an issue. I'd rather just say, do it.
Yeah, there's a strange line there. I think some companies don't really class tutorials as freelance, but then some will as well. So yeah, it's a definitely interesting topic.
It's a shame that it's one I wish it wasn't a topic. I wish it wasn't even an issue. But since we sort of talked about it a bit, you know, burnout, the dreaded word every artist is scared to utter. I just wanted to I know from talking to you in the past, you've faced it, you've gone through it. I know I think nearly every artist has probably gone through it, but I just wanted to sort of talk me through a little bit what that experience is like, and also what like got you out of it, because you've gone from, if I'm understanding correctly, you went through a burnout session, and then you've come out the other end with your own, you know, starting your own company and freelancing and all these risks. It's like you've come out stronger, if that makes sense. So I'd love you to just talk through what that was like, what happened, what got you through it.
I'd say, I don't know, that's kind of tough, because to me, I feel like I'm still in the burnout stage. I'm still not fully recovered, because I've not actually given myself a break since I've left my job, moved to Scotland again, and then I dove straight back into work and then forming this company. But I think it's maybe because I'm keeping myself extremely busy, I've kind of not thought about it as burnout anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think to me it was burnout in the aspect that I would be making materials in an office, but I was kind of beating myself up thinking about these other things I want to be doing in my life. And I kind of burnt myself out rather than a company doing it. I burnt myself out because I was thinking constantly, and then that kind of affected my mental state. And then growing from that, I think because I've got to the point when I was like, you know what? Instead of just thinking about this stuff, I should just give it a try. And if it fails, then I can go back to what I was doing. If it does really well, then at least I know that it was worth taking that leap. But yeah, because I'm not going to lie, this is the first day in a while that I haven't actually taken a nap during the day. As old man it sounds, it's like, yeah, I've been extremely tired, but today I didn't feel as bad. So yeah, I think it's just stepping on my headphones. I think it's kind of tough, yeah.
I think you'd definitely be strong for it though, wouldn't you? Because like, I was saying to you off air, and I said it in the past, like, you know, you I mean, I've gone through burnout myself, and by going through burnout, you know your limit. You don't know your limit till you reach it. And now I've reached it. I'm like, whenever I feel myself getting fatigued, or I'm like, right, I'm really, I can feel this coming on again. I can take the backward step and go, you know what? No, I'm not going through that again. Do you sort of know your limit now for going through that? Do you know what pushed you into that, burnout state, and you can go, right, I'm not getting close to that again?
I think so. I think because at the moment now I'm doing what I want to do. I'm not overthinking things. I'm not focusing on so much things at once, and basically making myself depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that kind of helps. But yeah, I do agree that with the burnout, kind of like what I've been doing, you just you need to work through it
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because that is again what makes you stronger,
Yeah.
and you become a lot more. It becomes a lot more easier to get the stuff done and overcome it when it hits you again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hmm. Yeah, actually, I quite like that. When it comes at you again, you'll be able to overcome it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What about
Well, I'm no expert, so
Well, I don't think anyone can call themselves an expert in it. People have their own. Like I said, all of this stuff, how much you can work and all this kind of stuff is so individually basis. The amount of hours I can work or you can work is different to what, say, person X can work or person Y can work, and like our limits are different. And also there's like all the existential stuff of family and friends and social stuff. Like, it isn't as simple as I've worked too much or I've done this too much. It's like I've worked too much and I've been treating my body like shit and I haven't been exercising and I've been neglecting my friends, and like it builds up.
yeah,
Um,
exercise is definitely important to keeping yourself mentally and physically fit. I think another thing with the burnout is obviously when I'm working, I was working on realistic stuff, and I come home and people would always tell me I should be making realistic environments.
you've cut out, bro.
Is
There you go.
to
You're back. You're back.
doing these things. I think it's really important to do the stuff at home and then maybe go back and do something stylized, to do something different, do something that you want to do as well, because that is important to keeping your well-being happy, and like you're basically keeping yourself happy because you're not overthinking and be like, oh, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. You can actually go home in the evening and do that. I think it's really important. People should just do what they feel like's right rather
Mm-hmm.
than, I guess, taking feedback and stuff. You got to take it with a pinch of salt. And a lot of the time when I was beginning material art, people were saying to me, if you want to be a decent material artist, you've got to make environment. And I still see it a lot of the time now, like people going, oh, I'm sick of all these materials. Show me an environment of it in context. And it's like, well, I know how to do environments, but it's not something I want to do.
I don't think it's necessarily showing content. So I'm sort of 50-50 on this now. So after speaking to Josh, he changed my mind a little bit, but I still feel like when I hear show it in context, I think I normally see it as show me it in an engine. I don't mean like with an environment. But, if you've made a sand material, show me an engine with a shader working, rather than a marmoset render sometimes, because I know you can make anything look pretty in marmoset. But then Josh made a very good point where, you know, um, he prefers to see stuff in multiple different light settings to show that the material is robust, so it could work for still looks good and holds under multiple light setups. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
indifferent. I'm on the fence for that one, because I mean I'm guilty. I make material balls, but now I'm starting to get into shaders, and I'm thinking I feel like if I was to go full time materials art, I'm like, okay, I can not only make the materials, but I can put them in the shaders and make sure they blend well together and all this sort of stuff. And that's how I
Uh,
framed it in my head. And I'm like, when I hear show it in context, it's like show it actually working. Does it blend? Does it height blend work? Can you lerp it? Does it all work like that in the engine? That's how I interpret show it in
yeah, that
context.
that stuff's definitely important if you really want to be a material artist. Is knowing stuff like textile density
Mm.
and doing things like vertex blending and stuff, making sure that it blends correctly. Because when I went to surf Supermassive and I had to do vertex blending, I was like, oh crap, I've not actually done that for quite a while, so I had to relearn it. So that's one thing that you should kind of, if you want to be a material artist, it's good to know a bit of the shader stuff as well, for sure. And it's becoming kind of a technical role as
Oh
well,
yeah,
because a
yeah.
lot of material artists are learning how to do shaders. And like Josh said, I think because a lot of material artists as well focus on tilables, where prop artists will do materials for the props and stuff. If you're doing tilables, that is pretty much going to be on flat surfaces a lot of the time. So doing, yeah, like what Josh said, is checking in how it looks in different lighting conditions is key, because then you can see if you've done the correct values and it looks correct in all these lighting conditions, rather than, okay, it looks good in the daytime, but it looks garbage in.
Mm. Well, he also made a very good point with he doesn't. You have to bear in mind, like, so when we're doing material art, it's like, oh yeah, is it PBR? Is it true PBR? And that's true. Like, that's the sort of thing we aim for as material artists. But then he said, yeah, but not all light setups are real life. Some light setups are really artificial. And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, he's right. Yeah. I've never thought of it like that. So that's the other side of it. Is, you hold yourself to this standard of, oh, it's got to be really true PBR, but not everything in the game is always held to that standard. Sometimes
Yeah,
you just want to make
definitely.
it work.
I mean, most of my materials, I break the PBR stuff quite a bit, because as long as the gloss and all that, it all looks realistic. You've got to push it a little bit to give off that artistic
Mm-hmm.
look to it, to make the game interesting and fit the styles. Because if you just made stuff realistic and you had a game that looked realistic, it might actually look pretty damn boring. When you
Um,
play it, you're not going to be like, "Wow, that's amazing."
I think mm, on that one, I'd say beauty's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose, because I wouldn't say boring. I think it would still wow me. So like, I look at Battlefront or Battlefield, they're all photo scans. They're pretty much all true PBR. They still take my breath away, but they don't inspire me the
Hmm.
same way. I think that's the way I see it. Is it's a very, how to explain this? They're technically very impressive, and
Yeah.
they're amazing and they're great and they look great. But when I play like Overwatch, that game inspired me. I looked and I was like, I want to make that. I don't play Battlefield and go, and I play a lot of both of them, and I'm like, I don't play Battlefield and go, oh god, I just want to make like the cathedral map. It's just inspired me. But when I play Overwatch, I'm like, holy shit, man, I just want to make it. I just want to start sculpting something. Like, they have different sort of visceral reactions to them, I think.
Hmm. Definitely. I think when I was saying, oh, the whole realistic of, oh, wow. I mean, you're still going to be like, oh, wow, because it looks damn realistic. I think it's more the fact of, I remember listening to one of Andrew McAmore's talks, and he was saying that the things when they're cinematic, they can be like pretty like, oh, wow, this is amazing. But if it was a realistic scenario where you were fighting in a car park and you had a realistic amount of people, you might be like, this isn't that interesting.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
But if you had exploding stuff and helicopters going past and stuff like that, you'd be like, holy frick, this is awesome.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Is there any just want to quickly touch on something. Like now you're doing a lot of freelance now and you're super busy with it.
Yep.
Is your workflows, the way you do stuff, has it changed much between that and AAA? Because I can't imagine, for materials artists anyway, I can't imagine you change much up. If you're making a material, you'd go about it pretty similar way. The only thing I can imagine is different is the end output, like what maps you output or like what channels they go in and stuff like that. But what's it like? How have you found that the AAA versus freelance?
Yeah, I mean, there's not been too much difference, because when I was working in AAA, I would recreate a lot of my nodes in the office and then put them up on their like Perforce server that other people can use it, and open up the substances. And then at home, I kind of have my own bunch of nodes that I like to use. But with some of the gigs that I have had, it's like, oh, you can't use your own nodes, or so you kind of have to either stick with the substance one or you get supplied some. But but I haven't really run into that much. It's mostly like I can do what I want to do, and if I want to use my own nodes, as long as I give them the nodes, it's all
Yeah.
fine. So there's not really much of a difference, just in the fact that I now work from like maybe 11 o'clock, maybe lunch, just after lunchtime, till maybe 10 at night to 11 at night, because I work better then.
Yeah.
Because then in the morning I can kind of spend the time going to the gym, getting shopping, going for a walk and stuff like that, rather than getting up and be like, okay, I got to shower and get straight into the office.
Does how's that? Do you still have like a routine, like a set routine? Like, I've got to be up at this time.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
always up at like 10 to 7.
Nice. I was gonna say, like, talking about like sort of how we were talking before about health and stuff. Like, I find having a routine, because you have like your circadian rhythm of your body. Like, if that goes out of whack, I feel like death for like 6-7 days. It takes me a long time to recover from that. What about like pros and cons then? So like, I know you said, there's a few things you didn't like about the studio work. What did you like? What was it that you really enjoyed and you sort of miss?
I guess talking with other artists, maybe getting feedback on stuff, and because with freelance it's a bit harder to do. You can't go to anyone and be like, oh, can you give me feedback on this material? You have to a specific client.
Yeah.
And then but at least in the office you can ask anyone in that office. But there's a lot of times when that didn't even really happen anyway. And
Mm.
yeah, I think kind of miss the fact that I get a wage every month.
Yeah.
So I know I'm definitely going to get paid, but then it's like I kind of like the fact I don't get paid monthly with the freelance, and it's a bit more all over the place, because then I know that if I'm going to start running out of money, I need a push to do something, and it kind of puts more on me to be less lazy and stuff like that.
On you.
Yeah, so that's something that I really enjoy. I think the social aspect was a lot more nicer in like Ubisoft, being able to just chat with everyone, um, and I made a good friend there as well. But yeah, it's like I can kind of still do that. I know it's not
Yeah.
the same online doing that, where I can just jump into the Dynasty Discord and go into the work chat and just start talking to everyone, chatting about work and stuff like that. To me, that's fine. I'm not really me myself. I've always kind of been a lone bird anyway. Like I've always moved far away from where my family was to go to university and meet new people. So I've always been quite independent.
Mm.
Uh, but I guess talking to someone face to face can be a bit more nicer. But again, I can just go downstairs and talk to my partner's family. It doesn't really
Yeah.
bother me.
I have to admit, the Dynasty Discord saved me with the whole voice chat thing, because, like, I work from home 2 days a week, and I love just being able to sit in a Discord with them, and I've just got people to talk to. I mean, God, I run a podcast, so like, yeah, I love talking. I love talking to people. I love just talking about ideas. So even when I'm working on like personal stuff, or I'm working on work stuff, I love just being able to talk to people in that Discord. And I think I would have changed job by now, if, or at least like gone in 5 days a week, if that wasn't there, because I'd drive myself insane just being sat on my own. I mean, I have the dog. The dog's great company, but yeah, I need to be able to talk to people.
Yeah.
So, leading on from that, the cloud colonies, plural,
Cloud colony.
cloud colony. So
Yeah, singular.
where did that come from then? So I'm guessing when you spoke about you had your mind on all other stuff while you were at the studios, this is it. This is that thing you had your mind on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did it come from? What is it? Tell me about it. Tell me what you can about it.
Okay. Well, obviously, the idea kind of spurred where I was thinking originally that I could make an indie game company and start doing my like games that I used to do, where I was thinking of doing stuff like walking simulators and stuff, but after playing one specific game that won load awards recently. Well, back then, but I played it recently. I actually found it's quite boring, and to me, it wasn't that fun. So I'm always like analyzing, and I really just enjoy the whole process of being like there for the sound, the voices, and stuff like that, and getting everything into a game. So I really wanted to do that, but because we knew we were gonna not have money for a while, we were playing with the idea of doing maybe something like making asset packs and stuff like that. But we've kind of thrown that idea out the window because we really just want to focus as our main objective is we're going to make small games because we were actually going to do a big game.
You've cut out, bro. So you start off with you were gonna do a big game.
Begin with.
Dude, just start back. Sorry, start back from you were gonna do a big game, so you cut out for a second.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So we were going to do a biggish game. But realistically, even though it would have took 1-2 years, we wouldn't have had to worry too much about money. It was still more like I want to start getting stuff out and showing people what we can do and build a portfolio up, because our end goal, well, it's not really an end goal. Our main objective for the studio is to eventually be making narrative experience games and trying something different, new with each game. And so yeah, that's kind of really where it's kind of spurred from. I've got this huge urge to just make games. One of my ambitions is to win an award for one of my games, like a BAFTA.
Nice. That's not a bad ambition, dude.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about so you say you want to like sort of start getting stuff out there for people to see what you can do? You ever consider doing like I don't want to call them technical demos because they're not, but like tutorial levels, like Divinity Original Sins 2, you play the first island and that's sort of like one big tutorial, or like what's another good example? Diablo, the first level. You make the gameplay, you make the mechanics, you make the weapons and all that sort of stuff, and you give them a teaser of what this game could be. Do you ever think about doing that, or do you want to make a whole product?
Yeah, we thought about doing a vertical slice of this RPG game that we wanted to do, and potentially go to investors and stuff. But I've been reading a lot more on video game industry business and all that to research how other companies, small, have been making themselves get bigger and bigger. And a lot of the time, it's companies will not give you money unless you have a portfolio of games that you've already shipped. So our objective now is to do a couple of small games, and with each game get a bit bigger with each of them and build that portfolio up, that hopefully if they do well enough, people are going to be like, okay, we know you can do this because you've done these games. So yeah, they have more of a risk to give you the funding. Otherwise it's just like, oh, you've not actually done anything on your own. I don't think I want to do this.
Dude, have you checked out I think there's a small documentary on the guys who did Divinity Sins and Divinity Sins 2.
Yeah,
like how they did their Kickstarters. I was gonna say that was an interesting one. I don't know. They did tabletop games before them two games, didn't they? They hadn't done a video game before Divinity Sins, had they?
No, they've did a few really old like RPG games.
Okay.
Style of like Boulder Gate type thing. But yeah, they grew from that, and I know a lot of people keep telling me to maybe try Kickstarter and stuff like that, but because I've seen so many games go into that Kickstarter and either really done like flopped because they're like, where Kickstarter has these tiers and it's like, oh, if you give us this much money, we'll give you this back, and then those things actually take a lot of the budget, so you're left with not that much, and then the games don't get done, and then they have to say sorry, and then people get really angry.
I mean, Kickstarter is high risk, high reward. Like I don't think you can go. Okay, you can go on Kickstarter whenever you want. I'm not saying what you can and can't do, but I feel like Kickstarter is one of the things. If you want it to tangibly work out well, you have to have a seriously viable product there, because you're selling to strangers, and you need strangers to basically it becomes a charity at that point. You need them to go, I believe in your idea, take my money, and I think it's quite hard to get that.
Yeah, it's different now anyway, because I guess back then when Double Fine was doing their stuff, you could get money millions off just an idea. But because so many things have failed, gamers and investors are likely more to invest if you got a demo, you got some music and all this stuff to show. So it's basically get like going to a investor or a publisher and going, "Here's my vertical slice. Can I get some money?" Because you're basically doing that with Kickstarter now. Because no one's going to give you money if they can't see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's true. You're right.
But I think, yeah, this big game that we kind of wanted to do. I say big. It was kind of like compressed in a small area, but it would have been quite cinematic because that's my goal. That's I like making like how things are like movies and stuff. Obviously, gameplay there still, but things being quite cinematic and you feel like really kick ass when you're doing stuff is one of our goals is to eventually be like that. And the inspiration for Cloud Colonies actually comes from a lot of the Japanese companies, hence why it's very Japanese, like RPG looking
Mm.
logo and name, because that's kind of stuff that we'd want to eventually do, not like anime type RPGs, like some decent cinematic stuff. But I mean, some of the other ideas I got aren't as cinematic, but we want to obviously make these small games to build a bigger team, and then make things more cinematic and do it with a team rather than like, yeah, I do this all on my own. Take a few years.
Yeah. Just to bring the spotlight back onto you then, like, as opposed to Cloud Colony, since you've obviously stepped back from AAA, and I know you're still doing freelancing, running, co-founding a studio is one hell of an undertaking. What skills are you having to learn? Have you learnt, having to learn, or plan to learn in order to do this? Because obviously, you as just a materials artist isn't enough to run a studio. You have to pick up some serious skills. So, what sort of stuff have
Yeah.
you realised? Like, right, I need to really brush up on this. I need to learn this. I need to read up on that. Where are the shortcomings, or what do you plan to fix them with?
I mean, I had a little bit of experience in before, like publishing and developing games for Android mobiles. All that stuff isn't anything that I needed to learn. I had to learn because it's co-founded, and I've co-founded it with my partner and a friend. And we originally, with one of the games ideas we were doing, it was kind of mostly me. And when they came up with ideas, I was like, nah, it needs to be more like what I want. So I've had to really kind of, obviously, this is the team thing. If we all really want the company to do well, so I've had to really put in my head it's called co-founding, so I need to start working with a better rather than just being like, no, I'm the
Yeah,
boss.
yeah,
So that is kind of good because then the ego doesn't kick in too much. I've had to learn a bit more about business stuff, so I can, when I go sit down with an accountant or a lawyer, I roughly know what they're talking about rather than just sat there them talking to me and me being like, I have no idea what you're saying.
yeah.
It's definitely important that you don't have to learn everything about law or business,
No, but
stuff in like
you don't want to be at their
bookkeeping.
peril. You don't want to be like, okay, I've got to take everything you say as gospel because I have no idea. You want to have like some understanding.
Yeah, so you know that they're so you can communicate
Yeah,
well enough
you
that
can
the
have honest
company does.
conversation.
Yeah. So it's good, like learning the basics and stuff. But that's kind of like with anything, really. Like if you want to be a material artist, you kind of need to know how to model. You need to know the basics of putting stuff into an engine and all that, and obviously you build up from it. But yeah, it's pretty much put that with anything. Like learn a bit of drawing and stuff like that. So I've had to learn a bit more like business stuff, management in some kind of aspect. I'm more or less trying to not let my excitement get the best of me because when we were designing one of our games, I was always thinking about it, and then it gets to the point where I'm like, I don't know, I don't think I can do this. I've added too much now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You
yeah,
want,
the scope's important.
yeah, I think you got to get that. I suppose with games like the fundamental, you when you break it right down to the one sentence sale pitch.
Yeah,
That's the game. Like being able to get it down into one sentence, and you add everything else on top of that. I suppose that's a really difficult sort of. I know I suffer from that whenever I do art or anything. It is, I want to throw everything at it. I think you're gonna. How have you thought about like? I don't know the networking side of it, because obviously you've mentioned, oh, it'd be really cool to take this like vertical slice of my RPG and take it to a publisher. Have you started looking at the whole networking side? How do you get in front of them publishers? How do you actually get talking to these guys? Because they're going to be a case of you send them an email with a build of your game and go, hey guys, what do you think of this? And then, yeah, they imagine they're making an interview with you. Have you thought about
yeah.
that side?
I have slightly only because one game that we're doing at the moment, I potentially want to try and get it on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, with the Nintendo Switch, you actually need to speak with a representative from Nintendo for that. So I kind of need to get to that stage at some point. But right now, I think we want to just focus on self-publishing, getting ourselves noticed a bit. That maybe these publishers will start noticing us, and we can get their emails a lot easier. Because, like, I'll say now, I have no idea what I would want to, how I would approach some publishers, and I kind of get nervous if I do because I might say something stupid because I don't have that much experience at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be like, I could go up to one now and go, or I could have done it a few weeks back and go, right, this is a game idea I've got and I want to make it. And then they could have looked at me and be like, no, you don't have anything to show us. So no. And then next time, maybe when you go to them to show something, they'll be like, oh, it's you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to give off that.
Can I just say, with that, our studio went through something similar where a while back, before I started, publishers basically went, oh, it's you guys. You guys are doing good content. Myself, with a few more of my team, a creative director, we all joined. And you saw their face when they saw a new content and they went, oh shit. Like, you saw them like they're not really that bothered or interested. Then they see what you're doing and you're like, oh, okay, this is clearly something different. Like,
Yeah.
so don't underestimate that. Like, being able to go from a clear progression where you show them something and they're like, whatever, they throw you out the door. And then going back 6 months later with a really good product and they're like, holy shit, they really take notice. Don't underestimate that, man. It has a particular effect.
Okay. I'll have to give it a try.
I'm not saying go and make a tit yourself in front of a publisher. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Because, yeah, I feel like maybe because I'm still quite young in doing this stuff now, the company is what, not even a week years old yet. Legally, anyway, it's a registered company. We've obviously had the name for a while and been working on stuff for a little while now. Yeah, I think it'd be cool making these small games, slowly building up, hopefully hiring more people, eventually getting an actual studio rather than working in an office room in a house. There's a lot I want to do with the company, so I'm really hoping I'll be able to do it.
But I have full faith in you. I think you will. With someone that much passion and willing to take the risks that you are, if you stick out, I'm sure you'll be sound. We'll wrap this up with one final question, which obviously I ask everyone. I'll put you on the spot a bit. Go back to 16-year-old Kyle. Anything advice you'd give? Anything you'd say, dude, don't do this, change that? Any advice you'd give to 16-year-old you?
What was I doing when I was 16? I think I was doing an engineering course, so I would
When
have
you're
just
getting
been
into
like,
game art.
go do that. But I guess in a way, honestly, I would just rather me go through what I'm going through. I know I could probably go cut out a couple of years early and be like, just make your own games. Like, carry on just when you were in university and you were making your own games. Keep on doing that. Because as much as that could be one of the answers I give, I think me going to work for AAA and stuff
Yeah.
is such a big learning experience. And it's a good way of understanding how the games work, how things go through publishers, and how milestones and such work. So honestly, I would just not say anything. I'd just let me do what I was gonna do. Maybe I'd say get off your fat ass and go to the gym more often. That's about
Nice.
it.
Nice. No, I was gonna say, to be fair, like your experience going through the AAA and stuff, I suppose that has almost enabled you to do this follow your dream, make the studio thing, because it's gave you some credibility to your name, it's gave you some backing to do the freelance. So, in a sense, you wouldn't be able to carry out all this, I suppose. With I know you said you got a house you have to worry about and stuff, but I think the fact that you've been through that AAA stuff and you've gone through these experiences and you're able to now do freelance to support the studio, I think is very integral to it, and it's going to be integral to its success, I think.
Yeah, because a lot of people can just come out of university and go straight into indie, and obviously it can work or it cannot work. And then those people that have worked in the industry for a long time and then they make a company, there's a lot more times where that's more successful. Obviously, I'm not going to say that's not going to happen to me because, well, that will happen to me because most of these people have had 10 years experience. Obviously, I've only had like 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot more different, but I'm always willing to learn. I'm talking with other indie developers and always getting feedback from them because it is important to know your limits.
Dude, you need to get talking to Mike Biffle. That guy is like indie guru.
Okay, I don't think I know that name. I'll
He
search
did.
it up afterwards.
You'll know him as soon as you'll see the games he's done. You'll know him straight away.
What was his name?
Mike Bithell.
Mike Biff.
Dude is like an indie guru. He's great. Really nice guy. Very active on Twitter. You'll find him. But
Okay.
everyone, thank you for tuning in. And Kyle, I really appreciate you coming on. I just want to let everyone know. Downstairs, down below the Twitch, there is a link to my Twitter. If you want to follow, it can help keep track of all the announcements for the podcast, upcoming guests, and when we're going live and stuff like that. My art stations are also there. I keep all the information topped up on there too. There's also SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. The podcast will be live on there if you want to listen to it on your phone. And there's also a link to the Dynasty Discord. I say it at the end of every podcast because it's just you need to be in it. If you're an artist, join the Discord because there's critiques. There's Jeremy himself does feedback videos on his Twitch channel. It's a very friendly community full of industry veterans to people just getting into the industry. You'll learn a thing or two. I know they changed my life as an artist when I joined, and I know it's affected a lot of other people. So join, say hello, say where you came from, and it'll be great to see you guys. Kyle, thank you very much, bro.
Thank you.
All right, see you in a bit.